Hello students, today I am going to start a new chapter which is transpiration, and in this chapter we'll discuss about or we'll study about the definition of transpiration, kinds of transpiration, then mechanism of transpiration, which is about the basically about the stomatal transpiration, and cuticular or lenticels. The transpiration by these areas is very less. So we'll discuss about the mechanism of stomatal transpiration, and after that the factors affecting transpiration. So let's start with the first topic, which is the definition of transpiration. Transpiration, as you all know, transpiration, loss of water vapor, loss of water in the form of water vapor, form of water vapor from the aerial surface of the leaves. This aerial surfaces, for example, it is leaves, stem, leaves and stem. The aerial portion or the exposed portion of the plant, leaves and stems, which are green in color, and the stomata, the lenticels or the cuticle are present on the stem, leaves or the bark of the plant. So transpiration, loss of water from the aerial surfaces. Then is kinds of transpiration, kinds of transpiration, kinds of transpiration. Transpiration is basically of three types. Number one, stomatal. Number two, cuticular. Number three is lenticular. Lenticular transpiration. Stomatal transpiration is by with the help of stomata, which is a minute opening guarded by the two beans shaped structures termed as guard cells, and that through stomatal openings the loss of water is termed as stomatal transpiration. Stomata are present more on the lower surface as compared to the upper surface of the leaves. So this is loss of water vapor through stomata. Then next is cuticular transpiration. Cuticles are the thin waxy coating secreted by the epidermal cells of the leaves. So that thin waxy coating, through if the coating or the layer of the waxy coating is very thin, then transpiration is more. If the layer is thicker, then the transpiration is less. So cuticular transpiration, loss of water vapors, water always in the form of vapors, water vapors through cuticles. Next is lenticular transpiration. Lenticels are minute openings on the woody stem of the plants, woody stem or bark of the trees. So loss of water vapors through lenticels. Lenticels is known as lenticular transpiration. Then the next topic is about the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. These all things we'll discuss in the mechanism also. So let's start with the mechanism first. If we cut a vertical section of a leaf, then the structure that we get is somehow like this one. These are the epidermal cells covered with a thin layer of cuticle. epidermal cells like this. Next to the epidermal cell is this type of rectangular cells, which is the palisade parenchyma. Palisade parenchyma. Next to the palisade parenchyma are loosely arranged spongy mesophyll cells. These are mesophyll is the middle layer of the leaf. Mesophyll cells, palisade mesophyll or the spongy mesophyll cells. In the spongy mesophyll cells, there are intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces, like in this case. Now the lower surface of the lower epidermis, like this one. Then here the bean-shaped stomata. Then next is this one. This is a double layered structure. Cell wall is present in all the cells. In the plant cells, cell wall is the here also second layer is of cell wall. This one. Next to this is the dotted structures, which represents the chlorophyll or the chloroplast. It is present in all the cells, all the green colored part of the leaf. I am not making in all the cells, just a representation. Now this area and this one, these are the empty spaces. Here the water vapors diffusing from the cells come to this these portion and deposit here. Water vapors in this one. So let's first label it. Cuticle. Then this is the upper epidermis. Upper epidermis. This one is palisade parenchyma. Palisade parenchyma. Next to this is spongy parenchyma. Spongy parenchyma. This is lower epidermis. Epidermis. Next to this is stomata. Stomata. Here I am making a structure for the guard cells also. Bean-shaped structure, thicker at the inner end, thin-walled at the outer end. This one contains nucleus, chloroplast, starch granules, chloroplast, and this one. These are surrounded by the mesophyll cells. Now, with the diagram, here cuticle. Cuticle is the thin waxy coating secreted by the epidermal cells. Waxy coating prevents the loss of water vapors through the surfaces. So, it is a kind of adaptation. In the plants, which xerophytic plants, the cuticular layer is very thick. So, or in case of aquatic plants, the waxy coating is thick to prevent stagnation of water on the leaf surface. So that cuticular layer is for protection of the leaf surfaces. Then is epidermis. First layer is epidermis. Next to this is the palisade parenchyma, spongy parenchyma, lower epidermis, and the last is the stomata. This opening is the stomata. In this structure, it is the structure of a guard cell. Two bean-shaped structure, thicker from the inner side, thin-walled from the outer side, with a nucleus, chloroplast, and storage of starch in it. Now this mechanism is in the leaf cells, or the leaf cells, the cells of the leaves draw water from the veins. Veins, as you all know, these are the veins. This is the midrib, and the veins, which is basically of provides stiffness, transportation of water is through these veins. So the leaf cells draw water from the veins, and these cells become turgid. These are the cells, the spongy cells, which are in close proximity with the intercellular space. They lose water by evaporation. As the temperature is higher outside, so evaporation of water from the spongy mesophyll cells takes place. Spongy parenchyma or mesophyll cells. Evaporation of water from the mesophyll spongy cells to the intercellular space increases the concentration of water vapor here as compared to outside. As we have already studied in the diffusion and osmosis, that the movement of water vapor or any substance is always from higher concentration to lower. So since it is more in concentration as compared to outside, it leads to release of these water vapors through the stomatal opening, which is termed as stoma. This opening is stoma. The water vapors diffuse out through the stoma. Then after diffusion, these cells, after diffusion, the cells become flaccid. Flaccid, which means they shrink. Shrinkage of cell makes the cells to draw water from the neighboring cells, which is the palisade cells, then the veins. They draw water from the veins and the palisade cells to become turgid. So this process, in which it draws water from the veins, then intercellular spaces gets more concentration of water vapor with the release of water vapors from the stoma. They become deficient of this, and again this process continues. Diffusion of water vapors towards outside by stomatal opening. When the water vapors are released, the stomata closes. So this is the mechanism of stomatal transpiration through the guard cells. Guard cells, they are bean shaped. So where guard cells, when they are in this condition, which is the flaccid condition, when they draw water, the outer thin wall, it bulges out. Bulging of the outer thin wall results in opening of this. An opening is created. This opening is termed as stoma, and through this opening, the water vapor oozes out. So this one, it stretches the thick layer of inner thick walls towards outside, and the stoma is open, resulting in the diffusion of water vapors towards outside. This is about the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Then next is cuticular transpiration. Cuticular transpiration is through the layer of cuticles. Cuticles, if the layer is very thin, cuticular transpiration. If the layer is thin, less transpiration, more transpiration. If the layer is thick, then the transpiration is very less. So it is a kind of adaptation for the plants to avoid the loss of water through the surface. Then lenticular transpiration. Lenticular. Through lenticels. Lenticels. Lenticels are always open. Always open. Minute opening on the woody stem or bark of the trees or bark of trees. Here, lenticular transpiration is to allow diffusion of gases for the process of respiration as well as the transpiration. So, diffusion, it always continues while in case of stomatal transpiration, it takes place during the daytime only. As it requires sunlight or evaporation factor when the temperature is high during the daytime. The mechanism, the stomatal transpiration is more during the day, less at night, while lenticular transpiration continues throughout day and night. So this one. Then is the factors affecting transpiration. Factors affecting transpiration. First is sunlight intensity. As the opening of stomata depends upon the evaporation of water, so more is the intensity of light during during the daytime. So more is the intensity, more is the evaporation. More intensity, more evaporation. Then next is number 2 is wind velocity. Wind velocity. As I have explained during the mechanism of transpiration, that it is movement from lower surface to from higher concentration to lower concentration. In the leaves, if wind velocity is high, then the water vapors deposited here would be drifted fast. That results in again making an area which is less concentrated, which is having less water vapor concentration. So more evaporation. When the wind velocity is high, there is more evaporation or transpiration. High wind velocity, more transpiration. Next is humidity. Number 3 is humidity. Humidity, if the atmosphere outside is humid, then there is deposition of water vapors around the leaf surface. Water vapors, if they are more outside the leaf surface, the transpiration or the rate of transpiration decreases. So more humidity, less transpiration. Number 4 is CO2 concentration. If the CO2 concentration exceeds 0.03% out in the outside atmosphere, then it acts as limiting factor. So less transpiration. Then number 5 is number of stomata. Now, internal factors are also responsible for this. One more thing, temperature. Higher is the temperature, more is the transpiration. Higher is the temperature, more is the transpiration. Then internal factors are also involved in this. Internal factors like amount of water absorbed by the plant, if the amount of water absorbed by the roots is less, then it results in flaccidity of the cells. Flaccidity of the cells result in less transpiration. So less absorption, less transpiration. So less transpiration, otherwise it would lead to wilting of the leaves. So internal factor, in the next class we'll discuss, we'll study about the adaptation by the plants for to reduce transpiration. Then we'll discuss about the terms like guttation, significance of transpiration, and few experiments to demonstrate transpiration process. Thank you for today's session.